So we are live here on YouTube, and great to see you guys joining. We've got a good group rolling in, and again, this is the 18th time I connect via YouTube live to the world. And I think one of the amazing things that I've seen over these hours that I've spent speaking with you, listening to your questions here in the chat, it's amazing how global the community that YouTube is out there in the world. I think we've spoken to every continent around the world. Joaquim Matos, Lisbon. I'm actually down in the south of Portugal at the moment. I'm in the Algarve, so not at home in Barcelona, but down on the south coast of Portugal in the Algarve. So Joaquim, tudo bem? Bom dia. Down here enjoying this summer in the Algarve in Portugal. And as always, what I'd love is just let us know, those of you who are connected here to this 18th live stream, where are you joining us from? Where are you at this moment? I'd love to see you. I can see we've got James from Newport, Rhode Island, Joaquim, Lisbon, Lancelot from Guadalajara, Mexico, Buenos Dias, Smile from Leeds in the UK, New Delhi, Ganjit, Sudha from India, Parik from Abu Dhabi, Galway tomorrow. Oh, great to see that the aviation industry is allowing you to get from the Middle East to Galway Bay. Bill Treasurer, hey Bill, how's the new kayak? I loved seeing the videos of you and your boys going down that same river that you and I went down probably 15 years ago. I can't remember the name of the river now, but one of those three rivers near you around Asheville. So great to have you here, Bill, and great to see you doing online stuff around courage. My friend Bill, who's in the chat here, is the only person I know who has a tattoo of the word courage in Irish on his chest, just to remind him of what's important. And I think that there's a good friend of mine, let's switch over to our chat cam here, good friend of mine called Rich Mulholland. And Rich Mulholland is an EO member, he's a leader, but he has quite a number of tattoos. And I remember Rich told me years ago, Conor, most of us have scars from where it hurts. A tattoo is a scar reminding you of something great. Too many people have a body that's covered in cuts and scars that remind them of where they hurt. And a tattoo is a decision to have something on your body that reminds you of something important, reminds you of something great, reconnects you to something important. And I know another friend of ours, Christoph, has just here a tattoo that says create. And I guess, if every morning the first thing you see here is the word create, and it just reconnects you to your mission, it's a great way of using tattoo. Rose Biges, back from the islands, great to have you here. Moses, Johannesburg, great to have you here. So the theme for today is on changing habits, but also this is our last live stream, number 18 since mid-March, when coronavirus stopped travel, locked us down in our homes. In my case, the first 43 days from about March 13th or 14th through the next 43 days, I didn't leave my home in Barcelona. It's hard to imagine that now. Here in the Algarve, I've gone out each morning for a run, for a bike ride. The beach is here. And it's hard to imagine that for 43 days, March, April, and into May, I lived within the 140 square meters of my apartment on a 4th floor downtown Barcelona. I wonder what we'll remember from this time in a year, in 10 years. I wonder what our kids will remember from this time. I have a suspicion that My daughters will remember this as a happy time. My daughters will remember this as a time where we were together and connected. And myself, I know I've had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my family every day since the 13th of March. And I don't think that has ever happened before. And possibly isn't going to happen again. We're not back up onto travel quite as it was before. But I guess this retreat, as my friend Mario Alonso Puig calls it, this time that we've been given to just stop being busy, sit still, and think about what's important, and connect to the people that are close to us, and be around our kids and our family and our friends. Important time to stop and reflect about what type of life you're living. One of the things I wrote down in my notebook is it's so easy to live an interesting life when I travel for work. It's actually much harder to create a meaningful life when I don't get on a plane and go to Boston and Washington and Switzerland and London, but I'm just here and at home and with my kids and my wife, and a few hours each day via Zoom or via YouTube. But it's forced me to stop and think, what hobbies do I want to have in the future? What type of life that is local do I want to have? What part of the international life do I want to regain when we come back to an ability to travel to the US, to travel around Europe, to travel to Africa and Asia? And I think one of the things I definitely decided is the events that I will travel to, I will go because of the quality of the audience. And looking through all my trips that I tend to do in a year, and I probably have 20 trips through a year, whether it's a week in Montevideo, a week in Washington, a week in New York. I've been thinking about, who are the people that are in the room? Is it really worth my time to get on a plane and spend time with those people? Are they committed? Are they motivated? Are they really the best audience that I could spend my time with? And I've started to really think about which audiences I really want to travel to spend time and do the work with, and which audiences I don't think it's worth getting on my plane. So perhaps one of the things I will be doing when some degree of international travel comes back is being much more selective, not on what they're willing to pay, but on, is the audience in the room really committed to doing the work, to going on the journey, to being vulnerable, because those are the experiences that I most miss. Obviously being paid well is good, but what I miss most is being in a room with 100 entrepreneurs or 100 business leaders or 100 highly motivated young people, and doing the work to think about our lives, where we are, where we're going. And I guess this last session together on habits, and Aristotle said, we are our habits. We are what we do each day. If you write every day, you're a writer. If you think about writing but don't write, you're not a writer. It's the habit that makes the writer. So I was going to share some just thoughts about habit. So yeah, we've got a good group going on. Bill checking in from Asheville, Sparkle from Morocco. Nantahala was the name of the river. Yeah, Bill, I remember that river. And I can see your sons are already doing the barrel roll. I think they're going to go beyond you. I guess this is the proud thing of a father, to see your sons already go further than you ever did in a kayak. Linda, New York City. Asma from Saudi Arabia. Ganjit, fantastic. Yongfei from San Francisco, probably early in the morning there. Murad, Algiers. Tony, Murcia. Buenas tardes, Murcia. Michael Kennedy, Ernest, great to have you here. Mark. So we're going to switch over, and my full screen cam today is not the Sony Alpha 7 Mark III. It is my MacBook Pro's camera. So I traveled down to Portugal. I didn't pack all the lights and the cables, so we're going to have this MacBook Pro video. And I often wonder, when the Macintosh is made by Apple that make this camera, which is so brilliant, why do they stick such a poor camera in the MacBook Pro? It may well be that they want to help the sales of webcams, but that is my question for Apple. What are you doing putting such a poor camera on the MacBook Pro when this Apple iPhone 11 Pro is spectacular as a camera? So habit change, and I've been, I guess over the last 4 months, all of us have been stopped and pushed to think a lot about life and where we're going and where we are. And for me, there's a saying from Jim Rohn that success or failure, success is 3 good habits repeated every day. Failure is 3 poor decisions repeated every day. It's not one massively successful event or day that makes a life. I went for a run this morning. I was awake at 6:30 this morning and feeling wide awake, and just put my shorts, my trainers on, and headed out and ran. And as I ran, I was thinking, oh, it's hard work. But one run doesn't make you fit. It's the repetitive nature, making it a habit, running 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week that leads to fitness, not one run. And it's not one day sitting down and writing that makes the book. It's day after day after day, finding the way of just doing a few minutes of writing each day that turns you into a writer. But the way I often share this concept is the problem with these habits is each day distraction comes in our way. And if you imagine, there's an English saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And I think I've shared this a couple of times on our live streams, but it's such an important concept that the good intention you have in the morning of an apple a day, the problem is that the world conspires to make it just a little bit more difficult. And say this morning you decided, I'm going to eat an apple today. The problem is mid-afternoon when you come in and you approach the apple, right next to the apple there's always chocolate or biscuits or a donut. And today it's very easy for my brain to think, well, just for today I'm going to take the donut. I've had a hard day, I went running this morning, it's just today, and I take the donut instead of the apple. What changes? Nothing. No one notices. My wife doesn't come in this evening and say, oh my God, what happened to you? Nothing changes. If every day this week I take the donut instead of the apple, nothing changes. If every day this month I take the donut instead of the apple, nothing changes. But if every day for the next 10 years, even though I intend to take the apple, I take the donut, now it really starts to show, and it's obvious to the world. And I think the great problem with habits is in any one day, not doing the habit is not noticeable to anybody else. You can't see the impact of it. A lot of health habits, brushing your teeth, you're not going to have a tooth fall out today because you don't brush your teeth today. You brush your teeth today so that you have teeth when you're 80, so that you don't have bad breath when you're 60, so your gums are still there and healthy at 55. The problem is the consequences come way later. And I know my friend Florian loves the story that I tell about my mother's hatred of the bamboo plant. So the bamboo is a wonderful metaphor for this. If you plant a bamboo in your garden. And I know there in Bigas, Rose and Florian have some bamboo that have started growing this year. But that bamboo in their garden was planted several years ago. When you plant bamboo, you see nothing in the first month. You see nothing in the first year. You see nothing for 2 years. Because what a bamboo plant does over the first couple of years is it goes down. It builds the root system down deep into the ground. It builds foundations. And for 2 years, if you're an amateur gardener, you might think, I have failed. I planted a bamboo and there's no bamboo. But after 2 years of building its root system, getting deep, making sure that it has access to water, even on the driest day, then all of a sudden the bamboo shoots up 1 meter, 2 meters in the third year. And this bamboo, if you look at it as an amateur, it looks like nothing is happening. But what's happening is it's really building the foundations. And when it's got the stable foundations, then it really grows up. And I think there's so many things in my life that I want to see the results, and it's tiring and it's effort to do the work of building the deep foundations necessary to have a platform to really go high. Another story that I remember on this idea was my friend Luis, who has a house up in the Pyrenees. And it's a 1-story, very old home up in the Pyrenees mountains. And a couple of years ago, Luis, he wanted to make it bigger, add another floor on top. And he asked a local architect to come up. And the architect came up, had a look at his house, and he says, I can't build another story on top of your house. He said, this house was built 100 years ago. And 100 years ago, the houses in the mountains, they only put a foundation of about 1 foot into the ground. Your home has a foundation that's only about this deep. If you try and go up without first going deep down, your house is going to collapse. If you want to go 1 story up, first you need to go 1 story down. And I don't know whether my friend Luis got around to extending up, because what he, as a somewhat amateur architect, imagined would just be a simple case of putting 1 floor on top, to an architect who truly understood building. To go up 1 floor, first you needed to go down and build deep foundations, a platform that was really capable of supporting the growth that you wanted on top. And to me, the habits that build a foundation for life, so often it's like the bamboo. It's like the foundations of this house in the Pyrenees. There's no external visible results for the first 2-3 years of the good habits. To me, if you want a 6-pack, so say at the beginning of the coronavirus lockdown, when we first were shut into our homes, I began doing a YouTube HIIT routine, HIIT, high intensity interval training. Joe Wicks, a YouTuber who's just shot through the roof in terms of his YouTube audience over the last 4 months, with people exercising from home and using YouTube to have a personal trainer in their home. Well, I found a 15-minute high intensity interval training from Joe Wicks, 5 exercises, press-ups, sit-ups, mountain climbers, and 2 other exercises that I don't even know the name for it. And I started doing them March, and day after day I did 15 minutes each day. And I think through March I was just exhausted. Every day it felt hard, and I wasn't noticing any difference. Through April, week after week, the press-ups seemed to be just as hard. It didn't seem to be changing me. But I think after 5 weeks of doing this 15-minute exercise routine each day, I started to notice more muscle here, more strength in my stomach. My back started not hurting. I run a lot, and I think running places a great deal of strain on the bottom of your back. But these exercises, week after week, day after day, started to strengthen up the core of my body, strengthen the legs, and I found that pain that I've often felt from running but not doing any other training has started to not be part of my life. I wake in the morning and there's not a pain in the back, in the lower back. But it's not one day of doing the exercise that delivers the results. It's the consistency of day after day after day. And what I wanted to share here was just some of the ideas about how you can make habits work in your life. And there's two books that for me are the source of a lot of this stuff and that I've read and followed the blogs and the podcasts of the two guys. The first is Atomic Habits from James Clear. And if you're not subscribed to James Clear's newsletter, it's a very short newsletter. I think it comes out each week, and it's just got 4 or 5, almost one line, one paragraph, pithy quotes about habits, reminders of what's important. And one of the things from Atomic Habits is don't try and change everything at once. Pick one. So if it's health, do health. If it's learning a language, pick learning a language. If it's getting good at communicating skills, pick that. But don't try and change more than one skill at a time. And I think there's 3 ways that you can make habit change more likely to work. And the 3 ways are changing the person, changing the context, or making it smaller. So changing the person, changing the context, make it smaller. Changing the person is called training. If exercise is difficult and not becoming a habit, hire someone to teach you to do it well. Whether it's someone to teach you to run well, someone to teach you to bicycle well, a personal trainer in the gym to work out a routine that works for you so you know how to use each of the machines. So the first tool to make a habit more likely is find some training that changes you, that increases your skills in your ability to be able to do something. So the first lever you can do to make a habit more likely is find training that improves your skill. The second is change the context, change the environment. And I remember when I spent a year very interested in high performance, in spending time with athletes that not just run marathons, but ultra marathons. I spent time with Kilian Jornet, the #1 ultraman in the world, with Michael Sunyer, who swims without a wetsuit across the English Channel or from around the island of Manhattan. Joseph Ahram, who's run the Marathon des Sables, I think 10 years in a row. A Marathon des Sables is five days, a marathon a day, carrying everything except the water. So day after day, waking and running a full marathon through the Sahara. And each of them, I remember, were very, very, very specific about the environment that they wanted to create around them. I remember Michael Sunyer, in his home, right next to the front door, there were 7 bags, each already packed with all of his equipment to go and train. So that if he was sitting on the sofa at home and he thought, I'll go swim, he just had to get up, grab a bag and go. He even ensured that his car was always parked reversed in, so that he'd pick up a training bag, he'd get in his car and he'd go. And I remember Michael told me that once he's in the water, he's going to do the full swim train. Everything that could possibly derail him before he gets to the water is where the danger lies. So he works on making sure his environment, his home, his car, the distance to the workout facility, anything that he can reduce the obstacle, the friction, he's done the work to do that. So that once he has an idea, I'm going to go train, it's all automated for him. And I remember Sean Accor, who's a researcher, I think, at Harvard on this, is very clear. Any habit that you want to do less. So if you want to watch less television, don't think about watching less television. get your remote control, take the batteries out. You can still turn on the television, but you've increased the barrier. Any habit you want to increase, find a way of reducing the friction. So if you want to write more, put a book where you'll walk past every day. Make sure there's a pen attached to it. If I show you my workbook, I always buy notebooks that allow you to have the pen in it. And I have it with a little tag so that if I open it up, if I have an idea, this string opens it exactly to the latest page that I'm on. I have a pen right there, because when I used to use notebooks that did not have the pen here, so often I'd have a good idea, I'd have something that I want to capture. You grab the notebook, you have to find the page, then you don't have a pen, you're digging in your pockets for a pen, you end up not writing. And tiny changes make a difference in your environment. So here, whatever habits you want to do more of, reduce the friction. Whatever habits you'd like to do less of, increase the friction. I often say that your diet begins and ends in the supermarket. The food that you buy in the supermarket is your diet. Buying chocolate in the supermarket, the moment chocolate gets into your home, you might be able to resist today, you might be able to resist tomorrow, but something's going to happen over the next 7, 20, 30 days that you, instead of the apple, eat the chocolate. So this second thing, change the context, change your environment, increase the friction for any habit that you want to reduce the friction for any habit that you would like to increase. And the third of the tools that is in atomic habits, but it's in a way common sense for anything, is do less, make the habit smaller. So the three tools: number one, get yourself some training to improve your skill. Number two, change your environment to reduce the friction. Number three, take whatever step that's your minimum intention of that habit and make it less. So, if flossing your teeth at night is too big a thing, floss one tooth. And if doing 20 press-ups tends to be too big for you to be able to do it regularly, do one press-up. And this idea that once you begin, very often the momentum will carry you through. I remember there's a long-distance runner that I remember listening to him speak, and he says that he always tells himself he'll run 1 mile and then see how he feels. He never sets out to run a 20-mile run. He never sets out to run a 5-mile run. He tells himself, I'm going to run for a mile, and if at the end of a mile I want to come back, I'll come home. But I'll make the decision at the end of a mile. He always gets going, and what he says is once he's a mile away, the first thing, he's a mile away, so it's going to be a second mile to come home. But the second is, once you're moving, it's a much different mindset that you bring to the decision of whether to continue or not. So by setting the smallest possible chunk or effort, you get going. And once you get going, you're probably going to do something. One of the things that we've changed here in my family, I remember often on a Saturday morning, we'd sit around and say, should we go to the beach? No, I don't want to. Should we go to the zoo? No, I don't want to. Should we go to the mountain? No, I don't know. And we would spend 2 hours thinking of different plans before we finally said, right, we're going to do something. My wife just decided, once you're sitting in the car, you're going to do something. So let's not decide the whole plan. If we're on a Saturday morning at home, all we need to do is make sure we all get into the car. Once we're into the car and moving, as we turn out of the garage, we're either going to go right or left. We go right, we head to the mountain. We go left, we head towards the beach. We don't even need to know we're going to the beach if we go left. Maybe we'll stop at a cafe, maybe we'll go to a restaurant. But once you get moving, something's going to happen. And I think this third thing, make it smaller. What's the minimum amount of effort you need to get going to begin? And don't try and run a 50-mile practice. Just think, well, I'll run a mile and see how I'm doing. I'll run 500 meters and see how I'm doing. So the three ways to increase the likelihood that a habit appears and becomes regular in your life. 3 ways. Number 1, training. Number 2, context. Number 3, make it smaller. Make the first step smaller. So let's switch back to our chat cam here. So you got a few more people joining. We've got Ernest, Barcelona, Mark, Neuchâtel, Switzerland, Jagannath. Great to have you here. 6 pages every day for the last 150 days. Wow. Imagine the difference in the person you are today from the person 150 days ago. I think, for me, one of the linchpin habits in life is writing stuff down. What really blows my mind is most people don't know where they were 1 week ago. Most people have to look at their calendar to remember what they were doing 2 or 3 days ago. The greatest leadership development, human performance, personal development book that exists for you is your own life, well documented. And just getting in the habit of in the morning and in the evening, just opening and writing down a couple of things. Where are you? Who are you with? What are you thinking? What's your state of mind? 1 to 10, how are you doing? Just get in the habit of being conscious a couple of times and put it down on a page. And to me, writing has that power of making life conscious. The act of writing, the act of putting something down in writing just raises your awareness. You become conscious of how you're doing, where you are, who you're with, how it's affecting you. And I think becoming conscious is so important, not just for you, but for everyone around you. This idea that an American Indian story that a grandfather says to the grandson, each of us carries on our shoulders 2 wolves. On one shoulder the good wolf, and on the other shoulder the bad wolf. And the grandson says, which wolf will win? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. And here with consciousness, I think nothing positive. Leadership doesn't happen without being conscious and aware, about being conscious about a decision to create a better future, to be willing to let go of your ego for something better, not needing to be right in the moment, but to create something that is better. And to me, without becoming conscious regularly during the day, and in my case, it is stopping and just noting down a few things in my book, where I am, who I'm with, what my state of mind is, what questions are going through my head, what emotions are in me. For the last 16 years, I've been part of Entrepreneurs Organization, and every month I meet together with my forum. And in preparing for forum, I usually, over the week before the meeting, I take an A4 sheet and put in 4 sections: personal, professional, family, horizon. Personal. Over the last 30 days, what are all of the things that have happened to affect me personally? The second column, what do they mean to me? What significance do they have? And the third column is, what emotions have I experienced? And every month I stop and I look back at my last 30 days and just think about what are the things, the people, the events, the thought processes, the states of mind that have affected me and shaped my emotions. And why are these things important to me? And I've become, every month aware of these things. And then horizon is looking at the next 30 days. What's coming? Who am I going to be with? What important things are coming up? And, I try and do it on an annual basis and then on a decade-long basis. About a decade ago, my friend David Thomas dragged me to London to do a program with Dr. John D. Martini called the Master Life Plan. And we spent, I don't know if it was 3 full days just sitting, writing a Word document, describing everything, every place we want to go, every project we want to complete, every person I'd like to meet, everything I'd like to learn, and just filling a document. And my document is almost 300 pages long, just vomiting out of me all of the plans, all of the ideas, all of the people that I want to be part of my life. And I guess, yeah, to me, it's the act of writing down that makes it conscious. Perhaps in different traditions of the world, you don't need to write to become conscious. But I think those of us who've grown up in the Western part of the world, we find it very easy to be busy being busy. And in my case, this is the only tool I've found to just pause my busyness and become conscious once in a while. So of all the habits, the daily habits that I would ever try and inculcate in the world, it would be getting people to morning, afternoon, and evening, just pausing for a moment. Where are you? What's in your head? What's going on? What's important? And it doesn't even matter if you don't ever read it again. The fact that you paused and became conscious is what's going to have the impact on your life. So, hey, Ronan, great to have you here. Hope Dublin is doing well. Eva, Sevilla. We passed through Seville a week or so ago. It was beautiful to see. Spent some time in Cordoba as well. The Mezquita was totally empty. I guess, are we ever going to get a chance to see these buildings almost totally without tourists ever again? Faisal, thank you very much. I hope that when I speak I use examples. Hernan, Buenos Aires. Espero volver a Buenos Aires algún día. Faisal, writing and not writing, absolutely. There, Stephen King, the author of the thriller books, is a writer writes. A writer is a producer of words. If you produce words, you're a writer. If you do not produce words, you're not a writer. There's no trying to be a writer, planning to be a writer, imagining being a writer. There is the act of writing makes you a writer. The act of not writing means you're something else, whatever it is. Niraj, want to focus on speaking. As suggested, may need a training. Could you suggest good programs, which is good as per your standards? If you'd provided the paid training, nothing better than that. So Niraj, I would say there's an organization called Toastmasters. And I would say, before anyone does a course with me, I would advise you go and spend a year as part of Toastmasters. Toastmasters just helps you get over the first obstacles. It will get you from 0 in public speaking up to 70-80%. When you get there, come see me. I love working with people who've already achieved the basics and done the hard work and are starting to think about how to become really excellent. But the best way of getting that training and surrounding yourself with people that can help you become articulate, help you become influential with your words, is the organization called Toastmasters. And if you go to toastmasters.org, and I know Rose here who's on, and Ethan says, yes, I started with Toastmasters. Toastmasters, they have a whole different series of manuals. So when you start with Toastmasters, there's the beginner's manual, 14 different speeches that you prepare over the first 2 years of your time with Toastmasters. If you go beyond that, that's up to you. But that first set of practice speeches that Toastmasters will give you a mentor. When you give the speech, they will give you excellent feedback. And they will help you become someone that is really good at accepting feedback. One of the things that has really struck me about anyone who spent time in Toastmasters is Toastmasters really instills a desire to get feedback. And it's almost surprising when you meet someone that loves hearing feedback about what they didn't do well, because they've really taken on board that the only way that I can get better is for you to tell me what I did not do well. And if you can give me practical tips or some way that I can see how I can go about getting there, much better. But unless I'm receiving feedback that hurts my ego, I am not getting feedback. And Toastmasters really instills this value of loving painful feedback, because the painful feedback, it might be painful right now, but it is making you so much better tomorrow and in a week, in a month. And I think, here, if you go to a gym and it's not painful, it's not helping. It's not making you better. It's not making you stronger. If you go to a training and it's not painful, it's not pushing you beyond your current level, your current competence, it's not helping you grow. And Toastmasters is I think almost better than the public speaking training. The training of a mindset about seeking feedback, and when you ask for feedback, demonstrating to the other person that you really want their honest feedback, because only their honest feedback is going to help you become the best that you can be. And that this balance between which is most important to you, your ego feeling good today or your soul growing in the long term. Most of us want to serve our ego. We want the feedback that people say, you are wonderful, I loved your speech, it was brilliant. But that feedback feeds your ego. It doesn't help your soul. Your soul wants to know, how do I really expand my impact? How do I really get this message out to all the people that need it? And the feedback that helps my soul is feedback that my ego really struggles to listen to. I want to be right, not find the right answer. And you got to let go of the need to be right. Let go of your ego's desire to want to be seen as successful already, in order to get feedback that really helps you become tomorrow and in a year and in 10 years the person that you really can become, if you're willing to suffer the pain of the hard work, of the feedback that hurts, of throwing out something that you're comfortable with in order to rebuild something. Bill, I love it. Growth and comfort don't coexist. So many people say they want to grow, but what they don't understand is when they say they want to grow is they want to suffer. It is only through suffering that we really grow. If there's no suffering deep down within us, your growing is a theater, is acting. You're not growing. You're not growing at the deepest level of you. Only when it really hurts the deepest level of you are you growing as a human being. I think today I had a coffee with a wonderful entrepreneur here in Portugal, and she talked a little bit about it. Her roots go back to the Tamil Nadu region of India, and one of the things she said is what the Tamil culture learns is, you are this big, the universe is this big, what you know is tiny, everything else is massive, what you know is so small. And it's okay that what you know is so small. And I think I come from a culture where I was almost taught to pretend that I have answers, to pretend that I know everything. And it looks good to look like I know everything. And for me, I've been on a 47-year journey to let go of the need to be right, the need to know everything, the need to pretend that I have everything in life under control. And I think it's so valuable to be able to let go of the need to look like a success, look like someone who has everything under control, and accept that as a human being, you only know about this. And the moment that you accept that there's 2 or 3 things that I do know a little bit about, but there's a whole universe, that the greatest thing I can bring to the world is curiosity. And if I can just stay curious and get away from the addiction of feeling like I know, feeling like I'm certain, then I can really flourish. And this I find very hard. So we talked on 3 ways you can make the habit change easier. I want to talk about 3 sources of motivation to get that habit change working, because any change requires effort, and that effort's going to require some energy within you that is strong enough to overcome the inertia and the resistance. Resistance in the style of the resistance with a capital R that Stephen Pressfield writes about in The War of Art. He talks about the resistance with a capital R is every day when you sit down to do your work, the resistance begins. The resistance is inside your mind. It's those excuses that will find a way of talking you out of being your best self. And every one of us carries three voices in our head that day after day, night after night, all the days of your life will try and talk you out of being the best version of you. I think I've spoken about those three voices on other videos. If not, let me know and I'll point you to a couple of the videos where I've shared about the three little voices, the excuses that shut us down and stop us being all that we could possibly be. But three motivations. So let's switch back over to our full screen here, and three motivations that are strong enough to overcome the inertia. And you know, there's some saying that 21 days of habit, if you can do something each day for 21 days, then it becomes almost easier to sustain it than to stop it. I think BJ Fogg, who's another of the habits and influence researcher, says if there's extreme positive emotion around a habit or the end of a habit, it doesn't need to be 21 days. If in some way the beginning of a habit, at the end of it, you can really create an incredible positive emotional experience, in 5 days, you can already begin to have that habit become easier to do than not do. But BJ Fogg talks about rituals at the end of something that give you a connection to a heightened positive emotional experience. But the three motivational levers that we can use to help ourselves build a habit, but also help another get clear how they can overcome the inertia of beginning a set of habits that will change who they are. And the three levers: pain and pleasure, hope and fear, and social. Pain and pleasure, hope and fear, and social. The pain and pleasure is to really clarify the pain of staying where you are. And when I talk about really clarifying, it's again, book, write down. If there's something in your life that you want to change, so say you don't exercise as much as your ideal self would do, getting really clear on the pain is take a page in your journal and write down all of the current problems that are arising in your life from not being as fit as you could be, not exercising to the degree you would be, and write them down. Dr. John DeMartini would have you take the page and write down 50 pains, 50 problems that you will experience if you do not change. Then the next page, 50 benefits, 50 ways your life will be of higher quality if you do make these change. And getting clear, to me, in my life, is writing it down. Writing down a page of all the problems that exist in your life because this habit is not part of it. 50 ways your life would be better if this habit was a part of it. This is how you use the pain, pleasure. Then hope and fear. So really getting clear about what do you have to lose. That find people who've not been able to get this habit in their life. So in my case, some of the habits that I haven't successfully got going in my life is some financial disciplines, about saving money, about I tend to have this sense of incredible optimism about how finances are going to work in the future, which means I avoid doing the nitty-gritty detailed work of just saving money, investing money today, slowly building savings and investments, so that in 10 years' time, I have choice over the projects that I accept. I have choice over which airplanes I need to catch and which times I can just stay at home, because it's not for the money that I get on a plane in 5 or 10 years' time. But that's only going to come if I find a way in my life of taking financial disciplines and putting them in a place in my life. And I think, for me, it's going to involve the three ways of change. I need some training on how to think about saving money, how to think about investing money. I need to change my context. I need to put people around me who are good at this, and make sure that I'm involved in conversations where I listen to people who are doing this in a good way in their lives, that I'm surrounded by a context of people that take importance in saving money and investing money, so that in a year, 10 years, 20 years, the resources I have to do the projects that really matter, the resources I have to help my dreams come true, help dreams of others come true, is more and more the case. But it's not a habit that comes easy. So I'm going to need training, change the context, and find a way of making it small enough that it's almost too easy to do, versus justifying not doing it. But the third motivation, so pain and pleasure, hope and fear, the third is social. And Jim Rohn, one of the most powerful things I took from Jim Rohn is his saying, you will become the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. And one of the most powerful tools we have to shift our behavior, to change our life, is changing the peer group that we identify with. And I think for me, Entrepreneurs Organization, I know Ethan King is on here, hopefully there's some more EO members connected to the chat, but EO for me has given me a peer group with a global perspective, with a willingness to be generous with time, to mentor others, to lead in a powerful way. I've learned so much from just getting EO members as my peers. Vistage has given me a set of peers of in a way, Vistage is a group of people that are 10, 15 years older than me on the whole, and I get an incredible benefit of spending time with people who really live fulfilling lives, and they're 65, 70, and I get to see the choices they made when they were my age, the things that they really value where they are, what makes their life so rich and so valuable. I think also in my life I've tended to spend time with people who play football, play squash, play tennis, play golf, outdoor sports, bike. And I think sports is a wonderful, in this way, linchpin habit, because someone who takes care of their health is going to be around for a long time. And if someone's taking care of their health, they're probably taking care of some other things that are important in their life. But yeah, Ethan, EO, as you can see, I'm wearing one of my EO t-shirts today. EO for me has been transformational. I think, Florian, I can see Toastmasters. Toastmasters has given me some incredible opportunities to give speeches, to get incredibly positive feedback. Some of my best friends and colleagues that have really helped me grow and become better as a speaker and as a teacher have come through that Toastmasters philosophy. And I think, I regularly say that the thing that most surprises me about someone who's been in Toastmasters for 2, 3, 4 years is how incredibly open to receiving coaching, to receiving feedback, to really just sucking in feedback, writing it down and wanting to get better. That in some way Toastmasters just helps put the ego off to one side. Let's help you get to become a great speaker. Sod your ego, let's get you brilliant. And this idea of don't try and be right, do the right thing, learn to get other people's feedback, other people's answers, other people's questions to help you not be right, but find the right answer from the world. So we're coming to the last few minutes here, and what I would love for us to do, just as we wrap up the last 5-6 minutes of our final live stream of this series that began at the outset of coronavirus, is what I would love you to do is just think of these 4 months. 4 months since mid-March when coronavirus arrived. 4 months since Zoom just became so fundamentally a part of my life and perhaps many of yours, that digital has advanced 10, 15, 20 years in the world. I think my family just FaceTime and video call on a regular basis, it's starting to feel weird to make a normal phone call to someone. I'm so used to video calls on my mobile, video calls here. What lessons are you going to take from this time? What lessons do you take from what we've spoken about in these sessions? What lessons do you take from life? And what's an action you commit to taking from that learning? And I'd love to see here in the chat just some of the things that you've learned from this time that we've been gifted, this personal, family, spiritual retreat that has been forced upon us by a little virus that weighs so little but has yet stopped the entire economy of humanity. And sometimes I do think it's almost like Gaia theory, this idea that the Earth in some ways an intelligent entity, that before climate change became a problem, the Earth found a way of just helping us turn down our carbon-based economic activity and force us to stop and find ways of building institutions at a European, at an international level, that China and Europe and Africa and America and the world over the next 30, 50, 100 years, we can solve the much bigger problems that are going to come down our way based on the institutions that we build now. So Faisal, any advice on a good Toastmasters to join? I would say Florian, Ethan, Rose, anyone who's a Toastmaster, how can Faisal find a good Toastmasters club? And James Basha, I saw a good question in there. Where has it gone in my thing? James, I love your question. What would be the title of my book? And that is one project that I have there just floating as I want to do it, but I've just not found the discipline and the habit of writing a book. I have no problem writing, but I write blog posts, I write articles. My problem when I sit and try and write a book is after writing the first 4 chapters, I want to change the first chapter because I've learned a lot. And in some way, the curiosity that helps me write a blog, make videos, come up with ideas and comment on the world, that is a power tool for writing blog posts, but it's a Achilles heel for writing a book, because the year-long writing process, the ideas I'll have halfway through will mean that I change what I thought at the beginning. So I'm going to have to find a way of committing to a book writing process that allows me to do that. But I guess, James, the title, I think it's going to have to be something connected with growth as a human being, and with finding out who you really are. And the purpose of the book to me would be to convey 2 things to the reader: self-belief and self-confidence. And I don't know what the title would need to be to convey that the book is written so that as you read it and when you reach at the end, you're going to feel stronger as a human being. You're going to feel that the validation you need to trust yourself to do the right thing can come within you, and that you are enough. So in fact, James, maybe the answer is, the title of my book is You Are Enough. So on that basis, I've learned something here today. Let's switch back to chat, and we're going to end this call just in a couple of minutes. So I can see the audio. Some of you have struggled to listen to the audio, so it's probably a little bit late, exactly 60 minutes from the beginning. We're gonna call it a day. Thank you very much for joining me and being part of these 18 live streams since the beginning of the COVID lockdown. And I'd love now if you just, let's see, is it? No, this one. If we just have one word from each of you in the chat. So one word in the chat as we finish this series of 18 chats. What word captures your emotional state in this moment. So I'd love to see just here in the chat. We're going to finish off with each of you just putting one word into the chat. How are you? If you had to put one word to capture your state of mind, your emotional state of mind right now, what word would you put into the chat? I'm just going to have a look here. So we've had 547 playbacks. Current, we have 70 people connected to the chat. Bartimaeus, determined. Harshat, rush. Philip, thank you. Joaquim, grateful. Hey there in Lisbon. Nathaniel, drained. I can imagine. There's been some tough decisions taken over the last while. It can be hard to stay strong with so much uncertainty. JJ's, uplifted. Great to hear. Eva, bravo. Gracias. Espero ver Sevilla pronto. Jagannath, encouraged. Keep on that writing. Abir, so good to have you here. And Abir, keep sharing the light. Resilient, motivated, inspired. Faisal, strong. And we're going to close out here, but thank you to each of you for being a part of helping me get through this coronavirus lockdown, because I think I've learned that I learn by talking. I learn by talking to interested listeners, and I've been very privileged that YouTube and each of you have played a part in being interested listeners. And there's something about, for me, speaking when I know that at the other side of this video there are interested brains, interested minds listening and engaging with what I'm saying. That's when I learn. So I have taken a lot from this, and it does not replace the energy that I get when I'm in a classroom with 100, 200 motivated, determined, passionate people. I know that time's going to come back, but this has certainly been a powerful experience for me. Livestream will remain somehow a part of my life, but we're going to stop the weekly Fridays so that summertime can be enjoyed here. Rose, inspired, great to hear you. Morad, pleasure. Niraj, reading. Faisal, thank you. So on that basis, we're going to pull Livestream number 18 to a finish. Have a great one.